Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is the Town of Somers Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is May 19th, 2020. Denise, could you please take the roll?
Mr. Carpenetto?
Here.
Ms. DiPolito?
Here.
Mr. Gio?
Here.
Mr. Hardin?
Here.
Mr. Lansky?
Present.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
And Chairman Canistra.
Here.
Thank you.
Did you catch Ronnie?
Yep.
You did. Okay, I just want to make sure. Sorry.
I did.
Okay. I request everyone, I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll start off. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic
which
which
stands
stands
one nation,
nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is of Albert and Anne Marie Gokaj. I do not believe they're here yet, so we're going to move them to the end of the agenda. So we'll come back to that item. Second item on the agenda is that of Raymond Simpson and Linda Gakowski. I believe they are also not present, so once again, we're going to move them to the end of the agenda. Okay, so we're going to move on then to the application of Mark and Anne Marie On. This is an application for an area variance for an existing deck of an existing one-family dwelling in an R40 residential district at 5 Verona Place in Mayapack. And I believe Mr. and Mrs. On are present. Could you briefly describe your application, what you're requesting of the board this evening?
Basically, we have a deck built that's too close to the border of our neighbor, which is basically just woods. So,
Okay.
Too close to your property line?
yes, that's it.
Okay.
I believe, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 50, is it a 50-foot required setback here?
Yes.
Okay, and they have 15.7 at the closest spot, so that means they need a 34.3-foot variance. Okay. I guess my first question to the applicant, this deck is pre-existing. When was the deck built?
This is actually the third deck. When we bought the house, somehow what was on our plans, that deck was way bigger than what was on the plans. So we actually replaced that and made it smaller, and then we replaced it a third time and made it smaller still. So what's on our original drawings is not the deck that we bought the house. I don't know how that happened or how they got the CO for that, but what was there when we bought the house much bigger than what was on any specs or drawings that we had.
Okay, and what year?
Or the survey for that matter.
Right, and what year did you buy the house?
Oh boy.
Wait, 5 years old. Wait, he was 6, 91 plus 6, 97.
Okay, so this goes way back, and it wasn't picked up by title or?
That's the most interesting part of this is I don't know how we got the title because what was on the drawings was not what was there.
Right, right.
Yeah, and this goes back to Ephraim or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Tom, have you made an inspection on this deck? I mean, are the footings and the security of the house, you know, being properly secured to the house, lag bolted, is it all in good shape?
The deck that's there now received the building permit. There was a prior zoning board approval for the deck that was there before this one. The deck that's there now has a building permit, and it was open for many years, and they applied to get a CO, and I requested a survey at that time based on the information I had in their file. When the survey came back, the deck now is encroaching, I think, 1.5 or 2 feet even closer to the rear yard setback than the previous one. So it's an additional 2 foot or 1.5 foot increase in the variance that they needed from prior variance.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's actually just a set of stairs that come off the deck. The applicant had the opportunity to remove those set of stairs because there's a couple sets of stairs that come down off the deck, and they opted, they wanted to keep it and secure a variance.
For that.
Is that over the patio, Tommy?
It is the patio.
No, it's not over the patio. There is no patio.
No patio. What's that line? There's a curb on there. Block curb.
Maybe it's a planting area
Okay, all
around
right,
the deck?
okay. So the deck at the closest point is 15.7, right?
From the
Yeah.
stairs?
There.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where the stairs are.
Right, gotcha. Which count in the variance.
So there was a variance, there was a variance for the second iteration of this deck that is now only being exceeded by the stairs. So if they went by the guidelines of the previous variance, they wouldn't need this variance?
No, they actually submitted a set of plans and were approved for a building permit for this deck that they have now.
Mhm.
How could they get a building permit without a variance?
The building permit stated something like emergency deck replacement. And I don't know the answer to that question.
But we're giving an additional 2-foot variance? Is that what it comes down to?
That's what it comes down to. I think it's actually 1.5 feet.
1.5 feet, okay. All
Because
right.
That's only the stairs which are at issue.
Correct.
Yeah, the stairs are the issue, right?
So just to be clear, we're disregarding the 34.3 feet variance in the application?
No, we're kind of like enshrining that.
You would be granting additional relief from the previous variance by 1.5 foot if the application was approved.
Then the total variance would be 34.3 feet is what you're saying, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. To the applicant, the house to the north of you, which is closest to the deck, how close is the house on that property?
Oh, wow. A couple hundred yards.
Oh, it's very far away.
Yeah, there's
And
a
it's
there's a
wood.
set of woods between, I can't even see it. There's a set of woods between, I'd say the closest house, yeah, maybe 150, 200 yards.
Okay.
And you
And
have to go through woods.
Well,
to get
actually,
there.
it's, yeah, well, no, from the deck, yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably 100, 150, 200 yards, a Petra set. Probably
I
100
see
yards.
there's a stone wall on your property, which seems to go onto the neighbor's property.
What's that?
It seems that there's a stone wall on your property.
No,
Oh,
it's just a line of rocks, that's
Yeah.
all.
That's
Oh,
not
it's not a
stone.
stone wall.
No,
Okay.
it's just a line of rocks.
Yeah.
And there's actually pine trees behind that, which when I bought the house, I was told that was my property line,
The
but
pine
apparently it's not. It's not. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
those little blocks, they're that's just an outline for my lawn, that's all.
That's just
Okay.
not mow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it almost gives the impression that that is part of your property, but obviously it's not. per
Oh,
description.
but again, if you came and looked at it, it certainly looks like it is.
Right. Right.
Hey, Tom, I noticed that the house is not even 50 feet. So I assume there's also a variance for that?
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah. See, the house is only 43 and, yeah.
Let me pull the file 1 second. I don't believe there was a variance for the house.
Interesting.
Oh, when was the house built?
1969.
And the house hasn't changed itself? The house proper hasn't changed?
No,
No?
not at all.
I mean, the property is almost a 1 acre property here. And, if you look at the 50-foot setback all around the property, it's almost like it's kind of tight to get the house onto a spot where
Yeah,
it's not,
yeah.
Right,
violating the 50 feet.
right.
We were told it was 0.94 of an acre.
Husband's email from my cell phone.
So the house at the closest point is 39.5, right?
Correct.
Okay.
What's he say?
Right here, it's the house from that corner, 39.5 feet from
Oh,
the property.
Setback? Did it change? I mean, the 39.5 would just be a surveyor's thing, it could be 41. You know?
It's the rear yard setback's 50 feet in their zones.
Okay. But that's never changed, correct?
In 1969, was it 50 feet? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. But like Vic says, the house is really tucked up to the back of the property line there.
yeah, that's-
All this land in front of it
No, it's just what the ordinance
doesn't
was.
bother me.
oh, oh.
Six.
July 3rd, 1st,
Yeah, and the original house was R40 zone.
Okay.
It had the same rear yard setback.
The zoning schedule has amendment dates, but it's impossible to tell what was amended without going back to those local laws, right, Tommy?
Yeah, there was even a small open porch on the original house that had a setback of 40 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the funny part, because that was, when we bought the house, that deck was way bigger than that. So,
It actually was 2 levels.
yeah,
Right.
Was this the first survey of the house since you bought it?
This survey is brand new.
Yeah, I can see the date on it, but was he
original-
out there in the 90s too, or no?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Did you buy the house with a survey? Or no, did you not have a survey at the time of purchase?
I think we used the original survey when we bought the house. I think.
Original survey.
Unless, wait, maybe not. You want to refinance? That's when we refinanced that, so you didn't need it.
The previous zoning board variance that was received was in 1986 for a deck and above ground swimming pool.
yeah, the pool's gone.
Yeah, the 86 variance mentions a 50-foot rear yard setback, and it was granted 33-foot relief from the zoning ordinance at that time. That's 86.
I think Tom's correct that we should be looking at giving them a zoning variance for the house at the same time. Because that could certainly, one of the reasons these applicants are probably going through this process is so that they don't have any title issues when they go to sell one day And it would be helpful, if it seems like that they're here, they might as well get a variance for the house. It won't hurt them at all.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't we have to, though, notice the variance for the house?
Well,
I think so.
I think we'd have to file another application for that. I assume they would have to file.
Money.
It's about noticing the neighbors. You have to do it.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fine. We don't see them anyway.
Yeah.
They don't see us. With the way the house is situated.
So the house was non-conforming to begin with.
I'm sorry?
The house was non-conforming to begin with.
What do you mean non-conforming? What does that mean?
It didn't meet the rear yard requirements.
The variance?
The house is closer than 50 feet to the rear.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rear
Yeah,
setback.
you're right, but yeah.
Was there a variance for that, for the actual house?
I have no idea.
That's why
It
I'm
was-
thinking, if that setback changed, when
I really
they
don't
changed the zone.
Nothing, I mean, unless.
Not
the-
that it matters.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe, the house hasn't moved, so.
No, so that's what I'm asking is, back in 1969, was the variance 50 feet or was it less? I don't know.
Is this pre-existing non-conforming? Is that what we're talking about here? I don't know.
That's what I'm
Believe so.
asking. Yeah.
Well,
I think that can be taken up as a separate issue. They can do some research in the building department, and if it would be helpful to them to have that variance, they'd probably file again. So I would say we could table that and let Tom figure out what's in the records of the building department, and then if they so choose, they could come back for a variance for the house.
And do the deck at the same time.
And we're the fourth owner, so it doesn't seem that this has been an issue before, so I don't know.
without a survey, no one would know.
Yeah.
That was the nature of my question. So, people all the time don't build exactly where they plan to.
Right.
For one reason or another, they build decks bigger, and it's fine. I just think unless you're in a hurry, I think it would behoove applicant to simply modify their existing application, go on to the next meeting, and be asking for 2 variances, so that they have a clean record. And then, that would be my approach if I were applicant. If, we have this application in front of us, and if you want us to just proceed on this one, that's fine. A lot of times a building inspector or someone else is going to refer you back for the other thing anyway. Or if you have it'll come up as part of some type of sale or something else, and then you could be under a time constraint.
Tom, does the house have a CO or a letter of nonconformity or anything like that?
It has a CO.
Then it's fine. Then it's fine. The house itself never got bigger. It was never expanded.
No.
No.
So it's always been about 40 feet. And that's that. It's fine.
I mean, if it has a C of O, does that mean it's pre-existing non-conforming and they don't need a variance for it?
Correct. If it's built there, where it is, if it has a CO for the house itself, the lot that hasn't changed. So it's basically, it's fine. I thought that when they changed the zone from RA to like the R120, that the setbacks changed, but I guess they did not.
The zoning in 1969 was R40 as it is today.
And R40 is at 50-foot rear.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So what's our conclusion here? Tom, do you think that they need to get a variance for the house? I mean, it's certainly not.
I think the board should act on the application as it is this evening, and I can investigate further with the owners as to what the setback, if there was something in in the subdivision that lessened the setback or something I could look into at the time, for the house.
Yeah, I don't object to that. I don't have a problem with the board voting on the deck. Let Tom look at this, and then if the applicant wants to come back for the house, if it's necessary, you should probably do that if it's necessary, just so you have a clean survey and there's no problems with title or other issues. If you sell the house or whatever you might do with it in the future, so.
I'll
Okay.
go along with that.
Okay,
That seem a reasonable approach to everybody?
yep.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant at this point in time?
I have none.
Does the applicant have any questions of us or anything else you'd like to say?
No, I thought it was a lot easier than I expected.
We're not done yet.
No, I know, but my point, the better point is that you guys have led me, Denise and everybody have led us the way, because it's a different language, so.
Right. I understand.
Okay.
And I guess the next thing is, do we have anybody from the public who wants to speak in regard to this application? I don't know, Paul, if you have any inquiries. So we're going to open this up to the public and see if there's anybody has anything to say.
We would gladly find a waiver to be able to, on a restricted basis, or we were going to see.
Now, if there's still an audio, I have no screen.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody, Paul. Is someone trying to speak in regard to this?
I do hear somebody in the background that I did let in a second ago. Can you please identify yourself? And if you have a public comment, please do so now. Let me see here. Asked to unmute. Coming in as user.
Yeah, I can't hear anything. I need a name and address.
And it looks like their microphone is off. It says on user here, but we're hearing something, because I see the little microphone crossed out on their box.
No, that's Ray Simpson. Sorry, I'm a bit late, so I was just muting because I'm not sure this is.
Oh, Ray, hi, thank you. Okay, Mr. Simpson is item number 2 on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Yeah, big apologies for my late arrival.
Nope, it's okay. I've been talking to your wife out west. Okay.
Other than him, I have nobody on YouTube.
All right, and I have nobody.
Okay, so it looks like we have nobody from the public with any comments or questions. Any final questions for the applicant? Anything else the board wants to discuss?
What's the next steps, I guess?
Well, we're going to vote and see if we're in agreement of either approving or denying your application.
Okay.
And then we're going to address the house issue later.
Okay.
The building inspector appears going to take a look at this, see what he can find in the file. And then if he requests that you come back for another variant, you might have to do that to get this cleaned up. We'll have to figure it out. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote. Can I have a motion for the type of action?
Type 2.
Second.
Mr. Carpenetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Hardin?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
And Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to vote on the application itself, and keep in mind, we're only going to be voting on the variance for the deck. So do we have a motion on whether we're going to grant or deny the application?
I'll make a
I
motion.
move we grant. Go ahead, Bernie.
No, do it.
Go ahead.
Bill?
I move that we accept the variance and allow them to have their variance
For the deck.
Second.
for the deck. Right.
Second.
Mr. Carpenetto?
Second.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Hardin?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye. Okay.
Terrific.
Congratulations, your application is granted. Like I said, we'll be back in touch with you, or the zoning board will be, I'm sorry, the building inspector will be back in touch with you, or Denise, regarding how you have to proceed, if anything, on the house. Okay?
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Denise, you got
Okay,
contact
good luck.
information?
Bye-bye.
Excuse me, Tom, I'm sorry.
You have contact information?
Yes, I do, Tommy.
All right, great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, Denise, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay,
Um,
do we want to jump back to the second item on the agenda
Yes.
then?
If you wouldn't mind, I'm still trying to get in touch with the first applicant, no luck. But Mr. Simpson is on, and he is number 2 on the agenda.
Okay, so we're going to back up one spot on the agenda. This is the application of Raymond Simpson and Linda Gofkowski. This is an application to renew a special exception use permit for an existing accessory apartment in a detached structure of an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district at 31 Plumbrook Road, Katona. And I believe Mr. Simpson is here to speak with us in regard to this application.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Could you briefly describe the application? This is an accessory apartment that you've had for some time?
Yes, it was with the property when we bought it. And oddly enough, actually, we found out some historical records that there were always 2 houses on this property way back into 1803. So it's an extension of something that's been going on a long time, I understand.
Okay. And is there someone residing in the apartment now?
There isn't currently. It's two apartments, if you like. There's a ground floor and an upstairs. The upstairs I use as an office space. Downstairs at the moment, nobody is residing. We have had sort of family friends and work colleagues actually residing there over the last few years.
Okay, Dick, can I chime in here for a moment?
Sure.
There are 2 apartments. One apartment is pre-existing and has never, when I went back through the zoning records, in the very beginning, that apartment was existing. It was never needed a special exception use permit. And then the last 2 approvals prior to me coming, for whatever reason, they got a special exception use permit for both those apartments. And it turns out they never needed them for one of the apartments. So the apartment that,
grandfathered in.
right, it's grandfathered in. You're correct, Arnie. So the apartment that we are looking for the special exception use permit for is for an existing 2-bedroom accessory apartment on the ground floor. So, Mr. Simpson, is anybody living in that apartment?
Not currently, no.
Okay, so that's the only apartment. The other apartment is grandfathered in and does not need a special exception use permit.
I don't know if I ever recall seeing an apartment, an accessory apartment that was grandfathered in. Do other members of the board ever remember that?
I have to say, I believe when I was living in South Somers, we had one like that.
There are actually quite a few in the town, in some of the older properties. This is a very old property. And that apartment existed before zoning.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tom, have you been out there to take a look at the apartment?
Actually, performed an inspection of the apartment via Zoom.
I'm sorry, give me that one more time. I couldn't pick you up.
Performed an inspection of the apartment via Zoom.
Oh, you did? Okay, via Zoom. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, by you saying that, Tommy, what about smoke detectors, that sort of safety requirement?
I asked to see the smoke detectors, and I was able to verify the apartment has smoke detectors per code.
All right, thank you.
And Tom, you don't have any issue with the other apartment that's pre-existing to the code?
I don't. I believe there was there There's some legal stuff on that, Denise. I thought there was something in the file from a courts or something like that
Yeah,
actually.
Before the Gafkowskis, before Ms. Gafkowski and Mr. Simpson owned the house, there were quite a few legal things going on with the previous owner, all of which were resolved.
And I did view the that other apartment also at the same time, and I did not have an issue with it, and it was also fitted with smoke and carbon monoxide detectors per code.
Okay, and the apartment we're talking about on the ground floor, it meets the 800 or 850 square feet requirement for an accessory apartment?
I do know that it was as originally approved.
Okay.
Plan.
They actually had to go to the zoning board to legalize this apartment.
Why, Denise?
Huh?
Why?
Why? Because it was built illegally by the former owners.
I thought you said that there were 2 apartments in the building.
There are. One was pre-existing.
One, okay.
Prior to zoning, and then the one that we're looking at this evening, there was, it was built without a permit, and the previous owners received violations for numerous items on the property, one of which was this apartment, and the apartment was legalized.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a total of 3 units on the property?
Sounds like it.
Or is there 3 residential units on the lot?
The house and the 2 apartments, yeah.
I would think so.
Is that correct?
House and 2 apartments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tom, is that correct? It's a residential house and then 2 apartments.
Correct. So there's a main, it's a very old brick white house, and then there's an apartment, we call it the cottage, which is split between 2 sections, a ground floor and the upstairs.
Right. And Tom, is there any issue with it being 2 bedrooms as opposed to 1?
I would think that would have been taken into consideration when the prior approvals.
I have a question, Chairman.
Yes.
Our code, I'm looking at our code 17070, and it tells you that you can only have 1 accessory apartment. So is there a variance that they need? That would be a use variance that they would need to have 2 accessory apartments on a 1-family building lot. Is there?
I'm sorry, Bart, you were dropping out there. Oh, now you're freezing. Uh-oh. Hello, Bart?
I can hear you now.
Hey, Bart, can you do me a favor? Can you get closer to the Wi-Fi source, or if there's anybody?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. But
if there's anybody on Wi-Fi, can you have them get off?
Oh, you know what? That's what I can do. I got a bunch of computers on.
Yes, please.
Okay. I can pop them off.
While he's doing that, I just thought I would mention. So I think we had a similar situation not too long ago over on Route 118. There was a husband and wife lived on 2 houses on the property.
Oh, yeah.
Apartment.
Yeah. Oh, we know that well.
Right. So there's one apartment that was grandfathered. There's another one that was legal, and then they were seeking one more, which we declined.
Right.
Situation where they had a pre-existing as well as an approved. Did have 2 legal apartments on that property. So I don't, just for relevance, just for a reference.
We have on our list of accessory apartments, we have at least a half dozen that they have more than 1 apartment on the property. The one apartment was pre-existing, non-conforming, built before zoning, and then they have a second one. But moving forward now, you would not be able to do that.
Right.
But where does that leave us with the Simpsons and the Gafkowskis?
They're just gonna get their special permit. So they're
And
doing, right?
this is their 8th renewal
Yeah.
on this
Oh,
apartment.
okay.
I mean,
All
if
right,
it hadn't
so
been
we're just
renewed- if
gonna
this was a
renew.
new application that they had never had it, it might be a different
Right.
story, but because of the renewal status
Right.
of this, take it away now, we have to decide if that would be reasonable or not.
Right.
Denise and Tom, have there been any complaints about this apartment, disruptions in the neighborhood, anything like that we should be aware of?
None that I've
None
received.
that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Now, I
So,
do have a question regarding the separate, apartment. What about the septic? Does it have two separate septic tanks? And what happens if there is a failure, whether or not there's room to expand for septic fields?
There,
That would be a Board of Health issue?
I would hope that would have been addressed when it was approved in the first place.
Okay, but it does have two septic fields? I mean, two septic tanks?
I didn't look into the application that in that
In
depth.
detail.
Yeah.
Okay, but then again, the question that I normally ask, when was the last time the septic fields were, the septic tank was pumped out?
Are you ready? On May 1st
Okay.
This year? Oh, my
of
goodness.
this year.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to know though, whether or not there's two septic tanks.
There's no-
I know it's not part of us, but it has to do with the health requirements of the county.
Excuse me, there's no requirement that you need two septic tanks for two apartments.
Correct.
You
No, that's
can have a
correct.
whole apartment building on one septic tank. You just need the Board of Health approval for the number of the bedrooms.
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
thanks, Bart.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Bart, are you okay with the issue of that since this one apartment is grandfathered in, that the second apartment, so to speak, has been renewed numerous times, that's kind of the basis for how we're proceeding? If this was a new application, we may think about it differently.
I'm happy to vote for a renewal. But the technical answer is applicant should get a use variance. Because that's the nature of the application to get around the code. But it's happened 8 times. It's not like it's fine with me. And, if something isn't a problem, I'm not looking to create a problem. But, from a technical basis, both this one and the preceding application, just because they have a CO doesn't mean they don't need a variance for the location of the house if it wasn't built in the proper place. But sometimes there's form over substance. So I take no issue with it, and I'm happy to vote to approve. But going forward, this would be, in theory, would be a use variance.
Yeah, if this was a new application and without the apartment being grandfathered in, I would certainly agree with you. And then if this was a use variance, the standard is extremely high to get a use variance approved. They probably would not get it, Yeah.
But we could certainly take into account with the use variance that it's been there for a long time. And it's fine. I'm fine with proceeding with the application. I'm just saying that's not the way the code, from my opinion, would normally function.
Any other comments of any other board members have any comments or discussion points we want to cover at this point in time?
Not at all.
No. Okay. Maybe we should open this up to the public. Does anybody from the public wish to speak in regard to this application? Please feel free to call in, and we'd be happy to listen. Paul, do you have any requests at all to come in on this application? Paul, you have your microphone muted.
I'll text him.
Okay, yeah. Seems like he's not responding here. Like I said, Denise, his microphone is off at this point in time.
All right, I'm texting him.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're giving the public a chance to speak here.
All right, I just texted him.
I think we can proceed with the application, though.
Yeah, I don't see anybody coming on. Paul would have to let them in. Just give it one more minute and see if we can get Paul back on.
I don't have anything.
No. Okay.
Do you want me to call him?
You want to give him a quick call, if you could, please?
Yep.
And if we don't reach him, we'll have to move on.
While we're waiting for that, if I could just ask a quick question, Mr. Simpson. I'm just looking at an overhead of the property, a Google map here. Is it a shared driveway, or it looks like there's two ways into this property, one from Sunderland and one from Plumbrook?
That's the corner property, right, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, it appears.
It's Denise.
Mr. Simpson, if you're muted, it appears.
And you're muted.
I'm sorry, Mr. Newman, your question got a bit garbled by the system. Could you ask again?
The property appears to have two driveways. I don't know if it's a shared driveway. It looks like there's maybe one in from Plumbrook and one in from Sunderland.
That's correct. So the one from Sunderland would be the only one you'd take to the apartments. The other one goes to the main house, but they are joined. So it kind of cuts the corner of Sunderland and Plumbrook.
So, and that's not a shared driveway. All of these structures that I see are all part of this property?
All this, well, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but yes, they're probably all part of that property. The driveway is connected, but it's not shared. There's two separate entrances.
Is there maybe a pool house or something? Is that another structure?
There's a stable, and there's probably on that map, there's probably like kennels, or I think it was kennels. I mean, we don't use it for anything. And
Okay.
there's a garage, an old barn that's a garage these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Denise, you don't have any response?
Look, I don't know what happened to Paul. I called him, he didn't answer. I texted him, he hasn't answered.
Hey, guys, I'm right here. Sorry about that.
Oh, hi,
What,
Paul.
yeah, hey, what happened?
We were just trying to reach you.
All right, I apologize about that. I was near the other computer. I had the audio down because I was double checking the live feed on the other side.
We wanted to just check to make sure there was no one from the public who wanted to speak in regard to the Simpson Gofkowski application.
Okay, I'll patch that through again, but I was on YouTube on the other side and I didn't see anything, but should we check that now?
Yeah, if we could, that would be great.
Sorry about that. I apologize.
No problem at all.
No, there is nothing.
Okay, nothing. All right, and we've given quite a bit of time for someone to respond. Okay, so I think we should have a vote as to the type of action.
I mentioned type 2.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Bill?
Thank you, Bill. Carpenetto,
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion whether we're going to grant the special exception use permit?
I'll make a motion that the application is granted.
Second.
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Carpenetto,
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Mr. Canestra.
Aye.
Chairman Canestra. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No problem. Aye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, Mr. Simpson, congratulations. Your application's granted. Please keep in mind, it's for 7 years, so you'll have to come back to us after that time for a renewal.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Okay.
Simpson, before you get off, I will be in touch with you and your wife via email with follow-ups.
Okay, I'll look out for that, Denise. Thank you.
All right, terrific. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to the fourth item on the agenda this evening. This is of Bernard Weiser and Dorothy Watson. This is an application for an area variance to expand an existing one-car attached garage to a two-car attached garage of an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district at 42 McKeel Street, Katona. And I believe there's a gentleman here Mr. Dalton is here to represent the applicant.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great.
Could you briefly describe the application, sir?
Sure, of course. So, as you said, my name is Michael Dalton. I'm an architect. I've worked with the Weisers on seeing if it's possible to expand their existing one-car garage. The house is a 1.5-story frame kind of ranch home. I don't know the construction history of this house. The garage appears to be original. There have been additions to this house. In fact, a number of years ago, with your department, with Tom, didn't require variance. We did a legal deck on the back of the house. The client asked me to see if it was possible to pursue getting a second car garage onto his property. I looked at the zoning requirements, came up with something that is a reasonable size for two-car garage, met with Tom and his staff and reviewed it a little bit with them and also with Denise. And so I prepared a simple set of plan drawings. I modified an existing survey, which I had engaged a surveyor to produce a couple of years ago, and produced an elevation that illustrates essentially what the addition would look like. The existing home, as I said, is a 1.5-story. It's about nominally 15 or 16 foot high at its highest peak, 1-story home. And this addition is kind of trying to fall in line with the aesthetics and the height of the home. So the peak of this garage mimics a couple of gables that are on the existing home. So we try to make it look like it was something organic to the way the house exists, the way it looks now. In order to accomplish the nominal 26-foot width of the garage, you're proposing to expand the garage width in the easterly direction to the east property line, 13 feet 4 inches. The existing garage is compliant with a 40-foot setback to the southeast corner. And now what we're asking, or the petition is calling for us to get a variance allowing us to have a 26-foot 8-inch dimension to the southeast, from the southeast corner of the proposed garage to the east side of the property. I think that's essentially what we're proposing.
This seems like a fairly good-sized property. It looks like it's about 3.3 acres, but
Yes, sir.
the house and everything seem to be in kind of one corner of the property.
It's kind of loaded to the east side of the property, correct?
Right.
You know, it's got, 300 plus feet in one direction, in its existing form, and it has something like 40 feet exactly on the nose on its eastern side.
How close is the neighbor to the garage that's being proposed?
To be honest, you can see on the survey, of course, the neighbor's home isn't shown. The neighbor's home is, again, it would be me giving you an opinion. It's in excess of 50 feet. It's not, there's a line of hemlocks and sort of like, I think they were fruit trees at one point. I don't know that they bear fruit on this eastern property line that actually partially shields your view of this. Okay, so in other words, the property line is shrubed, hedged, and has trees living on it. So it's not as if there's a clear view from standing and looking at this garage and looking to the east of the neighbor's house. You can see the neighbor's house through the trees and above the trees, but it's not, I wouldn't say that it's inside of 50 feet. But again, it's not on the survey and I'm giving you an opinion. I haven't gone onto that person's property and measured to see how far away his property is. His home is.
I understand. And you did say that this is a ranch house and the garage would be no higher than how many feet?
Yeah, the existing peak, okay, on the home right now, the highest point of this home is nominally 15 foot and let's call it 16 feet. And it has two prominent gables that face McKeel Street. And the existing garage is currently 10 foot 4.5 inches with a flat roof that is sort of attached to the side of one of these gables. And what we're proposing is to remove that roof and create another gable so that instead of having two prominent gables, we would sort of have 3 gables. So that this home, the addition sort of looks organic to the rest of the way the house faces the street. So I wasn't going to propose putting in a 26-foot wide flat roof for the street to look at, the flat roof with just 2-car garage facade there. I said, let's put at least a roof in there that looks like it's part of the original roofs, the roof design of the home as it now stands.
Sure, that makes sense.
Now, I would like to say something about this piece of property. Again, this is considered down at South Somers, and I've had the joy of swimming in that swimming pool. Actually, I learned how to swim in that swimming pool. Regarding the neighbor to the east, it's been a while since I've been down there, but I have to say there is a considerable amount of distance. Again, why the structure was put where it was, if I'm not mistaken, if you go west, it's relatively steep slopes. So,
there is a slope and you are getting to a water body. So they kind of put this property into an area that wasn't, going to have drainage backing up to the property, or was going to have, they probably put it onto one of the higher points on the property. There's no topo information, but obviously, as you're right, the property sort of slopes from the southeast of Hill Street corner down towards the body of water to the west. And it does have a significant slope.
Yes, I'm well aware of it.
The site plan here indicates the town of Somers is the owner of the property to the west?
You know what? I haven't investigated that. I haven't examined that.
Okay, I was just curious.
Just a little bit outside of my purview. I haven't asked anyone at the town hall anything about it.
Oh, probably Anglefly Preserve, I would guess.
What, to the west? You're talking about going to the west, you'd be going towards Yorktown.
Yeah, you're going towards Yorktown, right?
That would be going to Pines Bridge Road where Bosie's is. You're dealing with
Pine
the
Bridge
lake
Brook.
there?
Yeah, Pine Bridge Road is a little, oversized pond, small lake. I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, that was Lake Matilda.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, it's not Anglefly. I'm to the last address, my bad.
Have you spoken with the neighbor next door? Do they have any objection that you know of regarding the?
I have not personally spoken, but I know that Mr. Weiser and Ms. Watson's wife have spoken with them, and they indicated that they did not have a problem with him. Now, when that conversation occurred, did it happen last week? In the past, when we discussed this, I said, you know, do you think that your neighbor's adjacent? No, we've spoken to them. They have no issue with this. That's what they communicated to me. The owners communicated that to me.
Okay. And of course, the neighbor could call into this. public
Sure,
if they
sure,
want.
absolutely. Again, I'm accepting what the owners have said to me, and I have nothing else to add.
Will any trees have to be removed?
No. I think that there is a tree on my,
Looks like it.
there is a tree that is essentially on the southeast corner of the existing garage, okay, which is, I would say, something, in the 6 to 7 inch caliper kind of thing. It's kind of a vertical, hemlocky looking sort of tree, to be frank, not very attractive. There's a line of rhododendron that are on that existing east wall of the garage, which obviously would have to come out and be relocated with foundation planting and things of that nature. But a lot of these shrubs are not, superbly ornamental. It's sort of a forgotten facade because, not a lot of family activities are occurring on this side yard. It's a grassed way. Obviously, he's got the pool in the rear. So when you get to the sort of the northeast corner of this, there's a chain link fence that encloses this. You need to get to the rear of the property. You go through a chain link fence.
Will this garage be open to the roof inside, or are you going to have an attic in here?
I would not anticipate having an attic. I was not anticipate making a cathedral. Obviously, we're going to have to do, some structural trusses of that nature to do the roof loads and stuff. But I didn't anticipate. We put a fire code ceiling into the space and put light fixtures onto the space, etc. There'll be garage door openers that will mount onto the ceiling, things of that nature. So I did not anticipate, you're not going to have a lot of space up there. It's kind of a 3, 4, 5 feet by the time you get done with the joist thicknesses of the rafters and the floor joists. There's not a lot you can do up there.
Is no plumbing going to be in this building, just electric?
Yeah, all we're doing is just going to be able to, put lighting into the space and electrify the door openers.
Is it going to go on concrete slab?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant, or do we have any discussion points? We're missing any?
No.
Okay. Paul, can we open this up to the public to see if anybody out there would like to say anything in regard to this application?
Yeah, no problem. Stand by.
Thank you. So please, this is an opportunity for the public to contact us. If you have any comments or questions, anything to say in regard to this application?
Chairman, in the intervening moment, can I ask applicant, the representative, whether he plans to get rid of the roof water in a direction away from his neighbor? It looks like from the Google Maps, it looks like this all slopes towards his neighbor, and given that the gable's front facing, it would be likely that he would normally put a leader down there and just pitch it off to the neighbor. And the neighbor's house is far away, but he's got a barn, he's got a garage kind of close by. So my only request would be that he pitch the water towards the front or some other direction away from his neighbor, from the
Right.
additional roof.
Sir, I think that's certainly reasonable, and we'll be happy to do that, and I'll work with the building department in terms to satisfy them that the drainage is not affecting the neighbor. I think we do have the opportunity to be able to take the water on the gable, on the face of the roof that is facing east towards the neighbor, and bring the leader down on the northwest corner, and then bring it toward, within his property, going down the slope toward, in the direction of what would be the north border, so that it is not flowing in a direction sort of eastward.
That would,
I think that's a
that
very
would
good.
satisfy me.
Right, I think, and that's a reasonable thing, we should do that. We should never impact the neighbor unnecessarily.
Thank you.
Okay, so it doesn't look like we're getting any questions or comments from the public, so I think we're going to close that down. Any final discussion points the board wants to have, or any further questions of the applicant?
I do not.
No,
Okay.
No.
Mr. Dalton, did you have anything further you wanted to tell us before we vote on this application?
I think I've covered it, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the type of action.
Make a motion, type 2.
second.
Mr. Carpenetto,
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye,
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion in regard to the application and any conditions we may want to put on it? Maybe one of those conditions, making sure that, as Mr. Lansky had addressed, that the water coming off the roof certainly maybe should not be going towards the neighbor's property, should be dealt with on the homeowner's property. So do we have a motion in regard to this application?
so moved with the correlation that the water be directed away from the neighbor's property.
Second.
Mr. Carpenetto,
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye,
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, congratulations. Your application is granted with the one condition we put on it regarding the water.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Denise, will you be in contact with me?
Yeah, oh yes, Michael, I'm sorry. I'll email you tomorrow.
Okay. Thomas,
All
thank
right.
you. Tom, thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank
As
you.
well.
So the only application we did not address then was that of Kogad.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that
but-
was a carryover from last month.
Okay, so we don't know why. Okay, so obviously we can carry over again to next month, but we can't do this indefinitely. You know, they have to show up if they want us to.
Honestly, part of the issue here is that they are the new owners of the property and they have to renew that permit within 6 months of taking ownership of that property, or they are in violation.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have that conversation with her tomorrow, because I think she is teetering on that timeline.
Okay, so better to address this sooner than later if we could please tell the applicant that, so,
I will speak with her tomorrow.
okay. Thank you very much, Denise.
You're welcome.
The next thing, we have to approve the meeting minutes of the April 21st, 2020 meeting. Have all the members of the board had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any changes, issues, concerns anybody has? No?
No.
No.
I'm just going to approve by verbal consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? No? Okay, so we're going to approve, Denise, the minutes from last month.
Okay.
Last thing I wanted to make mention of, and keep in mind, we're going to go into a brief executive session when the meeting is over here, where just the board members will speak about an issue that we want to talk to the building inspector about. But I did want to make mention of the last item, that our meeting for next month as opposed to the third Tuesday in the month is the second Tuesday of the month, which I believe is June 9th. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Denise.
Correct. No, you're correct.
Okay, so June 9th, 2020 will be our next board meeting. I'm pretty sure we're going to be back on Zoom once again. Don't think things are going to open up by then. And any other issues any board member had before we wrap up the meeting this evening and before we go into executive session?
Is Christopher Columbus Society coming back, Vic?
Yes, so they're on the agenda for the next
June.
meeting. And then I should get this new owner of the apartment on. There's one, maybe something pending, but Tommy and I have not heard back from them, so I'm not sure that's gonna happen, because now I don't have as much time in between to prepare for the next meeting. So I can't give it as much wiggle room as I might be able to.
Okay. Well, also, do you want the surveys back? Because it's pretty good surveys.
So with regard to the ons, can you all please keep their surveys? You
Keep
know,
them?
I don't necessarily want to collect them because I can't, I mean,
You don't want one for the file?
if you want to go to the annex building and drop them in the mail slot to the right of the door, they will
Okay.
end up on my office floor or in a bucket. You're more than welcome to do that, and I will hang on to them and remail them to you. Or you have to physically hang on to them for me.
I just want to know if you need them.
Yeah,
Well, hang on to 'em.
you know, you're gonna need them, and I don't want to make, I mean, if they end up, you may need them. If they end up coming back to get a variance for the house, I don't want to ask them to print 8 new, you know, those copies are not cheap.
Right.
So you might
Yeah,
want to keep it or just drop it back to me and I'll hang on to them.
Okay.
I'll drop mine off the next.
Hold on to
All
them.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
Or you can mail it to me. You can mail it to me if you know, but I prefer not to throw them out in case we're gonna need them again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any further matters that we have before we close the meeting?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to close the public meeting now. Everybody, thank you very much and have a good night. And the board, please stay on because we're going to have a private executive session at this point in time with the building inspector and Denise. Okay, thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, Vic.